to the point where you rose to be the president of the Trial Lawyers Association?
I was the president of Trial Lawyers Association in around 2015, as we discussed.
Welcome back. Here to Just Conspiracy, where we just wish to conspire to bring heaven down to earth. We mean to do this by making sure that we have courts of law, they uphold law, and work really, really well. You just heard Alec Murdaugh talking about being president of the Trial Lawyers Association down here in South Carolina. He had a lot of prominence, he had a lot of status, he had a lot of power, so he didn't get charged with a lot of the crimes he was doing for years. And we're going to get back to him in a moment, but right now I wish to talk about Donald Trump because he was just indicted. And my last video was talking about how I didn't think he would be indicted because I went and looked at the evidence that's at least public, and I didn't see enough. And they kept on postponing it. The day before they indicted him, they said the grand jury was going to be gone for a week. Not a week, a month. A month. It surprised everybody. People on the left and right were talking about they weren't expecting this because the grand jury was supposed to be gone for a month. Lo and behold, the next day comes an indictment. That looks kind of fishy because it seems a little deceitful. Why did you have this public proceeding going on where the news was talking to the witnesses as they came out, and then you hide everything and now he's indicted, and I don't know what's going on. Believe me, if there's anybody on earth who is down for indicting people who do something criminal, it's this guy right here. That's kind of all I talk about on this channel. But like I said, I didn't see enough to indict him, but I haven't seen everything. The prosecutor is obviously privileged to information that I'm not allowed to see, but I don't feel better when I feel like I'm being thrown off the scent. The grand jury's not going to be here, and now he's indicted, unless I know why. And I hope moving into the future that is explained. Now, another thing that everybody on the left and the right agrees about with Trump and his indictment is the fact that out of all of the charges, these seem to be the weakest. And because of that, if I were Trump, I would exercise two very, very important rights. The right to a speedy trial and for it to be open to the public. And today, with news and media, we've already seen trials like Kyle Rittenhouse, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, Alec Murdaugh, where they can come in, mic everybody up, point the cameras at certain angles so we don't know who the jury is, and they can hold the trial and we can all see everything, even the things that the jury is not allowed to see. And I believe that's what is really, really important for this nation right now, so that we can all know the truth about what's going on and how bad it is. Those are the two things that I would do if I were Trump, and I would move forward with the trial as if it was my campaign. I would be campaigning the whole time and get a whole lot of airtime for free. Paid for by the state of New York. With that being said, let's get back to Alec Murdaugh, because he was driving around with a solicitor's badge and blue lights and nobody noticed that anything criminal was going on until way too late. It might have been good if we had a system that could catch criminality before two people have to tragically die. And one of the reasons that he could get away with all of these actions for so long is because of that status, is because of the prominence that he had in the community. This is not something that anybody really debates or argues about. The thing is that the public is asking questions like, it seems like he did an awful lot for just one individual. You're telling me nobody was in on it with him? These are the things that we're going to go over today. And it's all going to start with Alex telling you how he got his solicitor's badge in the first place.
All right, well, let's talk about being a prosecutor. When did you become an assistant solicitor?
I believe that I became an assistant solicitor when I moved from Beaufort to Hampton. So that would have been September, sometime around September 1998. Might have been a little bit after that, but sometime.
Did you get a badge when you became an assistant solicitor?
At some point I did, yes, sir.
And who gave you that badge?
My father,
Mr. Randolph?
yes, sir.
And over the years, did you prosecute criminal cases, much as what's going on here today?
Yes, sir, at times I did.
And
I believe that I prosecuted from 1998 to 2001. I believe that
2001? Keep going, I'm sorry.
2021, I'm sorry, until 2021. From 1998 to 2021, I believe I was involved in 5 jury, I believe there were 5 trials.
5 trials?
Is the best that I can remember. And
You had-
all with my dad. That was really the purpose of me being assistant solicitor, was get to spend time with him, do things with him.
Sure. And you, 5 jury trials over all that time, but you had a badge that entire time, is that correct?
I had a badge for a big part of that time, yes, sir.
You actually had 2 badges, right?
I had 1 badge, but when my granddad became an assistant solicitor for my dad, when my dad became the solicitor, he had an assistant solicitor's badge.
Right.
When he passed away, I had his badge, and that was one of, at some point in time you were asking somebody about 2 badges, and that was the other badge.
I got you. You said you did 5 criminal jury trials as a prosecutor, correct?
Assisted in those, or was doing them, yes, sir. I believe I was actually the lead lawyer in one of them. I helped my dad in the other 4.
Still part of preparing the case?
Yes, sir.
Still part of gathering the evidence and putting it together for trial?
In a criminal case, we didn't do much of the gathering of the evidence. We took what law enforcement had gathered, but
But putting it together for the criminal trial, correct?
yes, sir.
Presenting evidence in court?
Yes, sir.
Giving jury argument?
I did the closing argument in one of them, yes, sir.
Did you ever have any cases that you prosecuted that went short of a jury trial, either pled out or were dismissed for some reason?
You know, I'm sure that at some point over between 1998 and 2021 that I took some plea, but as we sit here today, I can't specifically remember that, and I don't ever remember working a case up for trial that didn't go to trial. But I'm sure at some point in time I was involved in some level on a guilty plea or guilty pleas.
So Alex had that solicitor's badge from 1998 to 2021. He was kind of in the bloodline of people to get a solicitor's badge because his grandfather was a solicitor, his dad was a solicitor. Murdaugh, I guess he just didn't have that ambition to be a solicitor. But he had a solicitor's badge, he had the power and the authority of a solicitor, and the only thing that he really did as a solicitor, to the best of my knowledge from what was testified at trial, is he prosecuted 5 jury cases with his dad, kind of like a father-son day at work thing, you know. And he can't remember if he had any plea deals, but he's sure he probably had at least one out of the 23 years that he was representing the state of South Carolina as a solicitor. That seems pretty interesting. Let's see what he did with that badge and how it was used.
States 570, and see if you recognize this particular item. You can go ahead and take it out of the badge, out of the bag.
All right, sir.
You know what that is?
Yes, sir.
That's 571.
Yes, sir.
All right. And then I'm going to show you what was in the bag in 570. Can you tell me what that is?
I can.
All right. What is that?
Which one?
570. What is that?
All right. 571 is what I would consider to be my badge.
All right. And then what is this one right here, which is 570?
Okay, 570 would be the one I told you about, was my grandfather's badge after he retired, when he became an assistant for my dad.
Your Honor, this time I'd offer states 571 and 570 in the evidence.
Yeah, I admit it.
All right. Where did you keep 570, the one that was your grandfather's?
It didn't have a single place that it was kept.
You know where it was recovered by law enforcement?
No, sir.
Would you dispute if it was recovered out of the Mercedes you were driving on September 4th, the day of the side of the road incident?
No, I believe that.
You said there were particular reasons why you might put it in the dash. What would those reasons be?
I mean, it could be any number of things. If I'm going somewhere where I want somebody to see it, then I would put it in the dash. If there's another reason for somebody to see it, like for instance, if I get pulled over, I might have it in the cup holder so an officer could see it when he walked up.
Why would you do that? Why would you have it in the cup holder? You're not saying you were on official business, are you?
No, I'm not saying I'm on official business.
Why would you want it in a cup holder if you got pulled over?
Because I found that law enforcement oftentimes is friendlier when you're in law enforcement.
When you're law enforcement. So you considered yourself law enforcement?
No, sir, I can't say that I considered myself law enforcement.
Well, you carried a badge on you. See if you could use it to get away with something, correct? Get better treatment if you got pulled over.
Get better treatment if I got pulled over. I mean, that's probably a fair statement. That, yeah, if somebody in law enforcement saw that, yeah, I'd say that.
Did you have to take an oath when you got that badge?
No, sir.
You didn't?
Not that I remember. I don't. I certainly don't recall taking one. Like, so going somewhere and raising my hand.
Raising your hand and saying, "I promise to do my duty fairly and with integrity." You never had to do that?
Mr. Waters, if I did, I sure don't recall it. I mean, it was a very informal process when I became a volunteer assistant solicitor for my dad. And then when I continued with Duffy, I mean, at some point, you know, if I took any oath at all that I can remember, it would be on some paper that I may have had to sign, but I don't specifically remember doing that.
All right, let's talk about it. What position does it say that you're appointed to?
Okay, it says that as solicitor of the 14th Judicial Circuit, I do certify that Richard A. Murdaugh was on July 1st, 2013, appointed as the Deputy Solicitor of Allendale, Beaufort, Colleton, Hampton, and Jasper counties in and is authorized to enforce the laws in the 14th Judicial Circuit of South Carolina.
All right, awesome. Can I hold it back?
And it's, yes, sir, signed by Duffy Stone.
Signed by Duffy Stone. So deputy solicitor, is that correct?
I was never a deputy solicitor, Mr. Waters. That's what that says, but I've never been a deputy solicitor. Unless deputy solicitor is, I was a volunteer assistant solicitor. And as far as I know, Sean Thornton has been the only deputy solicitor that Duffy Stone had.
And it's a simple point. It says deputy solicitor, but deputy solicitor is a higher rank than assistant solicitor, correct? To your understanding?
That's what I think.
Yeah.
And that was Sean Thornton. I've never been deputy solicitor, even though that does say that.
All right.
I agree with. And that was signed by Duffy Stone, not by me.
I understand. This is what was given to you.
That's what was given to me.
I went through this whole long thing at the beginning about whether or not you had an association with the law enforcement community, but this was given to you not by your father, but by a successor, correct?
Well, no, sir. I believe we got to this because you were asking me if I took an oath, and I don't remember taking an oath, and then you started asking me about these things.
Okay. And you agree that this card says deputy solicitor, right?
I agree that card says deputy solicitor.
All right. Would you agree with me that it says on the back that it is reposing special trust and confidence in your ability, care, prudence, and integrity? Is that what it says on the back of this?
I mean, if you're, no, sir, I mean, I trust, if you're reading that off the back of that, I assume that it does. The one on the top was what came from my dad when he was solicitor. The one on the bottom is what came from Duffy Stone when he was solicitor. And Duffy Stone took over after my dad retired in 2006. Duffy Stone filled my dad's the rest of his unexpired 4-year term, much like my dad filled my granddad. So, and then Duffy became the solicitor.
You don't say. You get better treatment with the solicitor's badge than if you don't have one. I don't know anything about that. I never had that privilege. But I could imagine that would work. Interesting way to use it, though. And Duffy Stone is the solicitor that signed for that badge, that signed for Alex Murdaugh to have the power and authority of the South Carolina solicitor, which means he could probably start cases, criminal cases, kind of like he prosecuted 5 of. And Alex Murdaugh's dad handed the reins over. Duffy Stone wasn't voted in, and nobody's going to run against him because that's just small town politics. And now Duffy Stone really owes Rudolph Murdaugh a favor or two, at least a couple of solicitor badges and some authority to act in that position. At least he owes him that. And you know what? Alex Murdaugh did not even take an oath to be a solicitor, at least not one he can remember. But it was a pretty informal process when your dad's the solicitor and that's the first time you get it. But what about when Duffy Stone gave it to him? Did Duffy Stone say, oh no, you gotta take an oath because I want to make sure that you're not going to abuse that authority? He didn't do that. How many other public officials have not taken their oath to do things like uphold and defend the Constitution of the state of South Carolina? I don't know. But I think that these are all very, very good questions that probably deserve some answers to the public. Let's see what else he did with that badge.
Did you ever have lights in your vehicle?
In the particular vehicle?
No, in any vehicle.
Yes, sir, I did.
Was that a government vehicle?
No, sir, it was not.
When did you have lights, like blue lights and stuff?
Yes, sir, I had some blue lights.
When did you have blue lights? And let me remember, you did 5 cases over 20 years, and you had blue lights in your vehicle, but it was your private vehicle, correct?
Well, it was the vehicle that I drove. It was a law firm owned vehicle.
The law firm's own vehicle. So how'd you get blue lights in there?
I had them installed.
And who installed them?
I believe that Eddie Gibson installed them.
5 years, 10 years?
No, here I can give you a time frame.
Okay.
The vehicle that I was in on that got taken in on June the 7th, I got that vehicle sometime around late December or January, so I'd had it for 6 months. I would have had the previous vehicle for 5 years. That's how long we kept vehicles in the law firm. So I would have had it for 5 years. And sometime during that 5-year period, I had lights installed.
Did you ask the sheriff at the time if you could do that?
I did.
Who was that?
I believe it was T.C. Smalls, and I believe in Colleton it was Andy Strickland.
In Colleton it was Andy Strickland?
And I believe in Allendale it was Tom Carter.
Were you friends with Andy Strickland?
Yeah, I was friends with Andy Strickland.
And you said, hey, I'm going to get some blue lights installed in my vehicle, and he said, that's cool. Or words to that effect.
I mean, that doesn't sound like the words that he would have used or I would have used, but I certainly asked him, and he certainly said it was okay.
It was okay. All right. We've talked a little bit about your badge. Did you have your badge with you on the night of the boat wreck?
On the night of the boat wreck, did I have it with me?
Yeah.
When?
Did you go to the hospital that night?
I did go to the hospital that night.
Did you have it with you then?
I don't know, but I don't believe so. But I really
You
don't
don't
know.
believe so?
But
When you went to the hospital on the night of the boat wreck, were you acting in any official capacity?
the night of when I went to the hospital, was I acting in an official capacity?
Yes.
No, sir.
Okay. That's you in the white shirt, is that right?
Yes, sir, it is.
And this is the badge hanging out at your pocket? You remember which, is that correct?
Looks to be, yes, sir.
Which badge is that? Which one of the two, do you remember?
Nah, you can't tell from here.
Okay. Why'd you have it hanging out of your pocket like that?
I don't remember having that. No, I don't know.
You don't remember that?
I don't remember that, no, sir.
Did you generally walk around with your badge hanging out of your pocket?
Generally speaking, no, sir, I did not.
Or only when you wanted some advantage from it?
Did
Did you want some advantage from wearing it like that?
Did I hang it out in my pocket when I wanted an advantage?
Yes.
I may have.
Okay.
I certainly may have.
What advantage did you want?
When?
Then?
I don't even recall this, Mr. Waters, but if I was wanting some advantage, as you say it, I guess, and I don't remember this, but I guess I would want, as I said, a badge has a warming effect with other law enforcement. And so if I was seeking any advantage, as you say, then I guess that would be what it was.
Or would you only carry it when you wanted to use it for something?
No, I wouldn't generally carry it around in my pocket just any time.
Okay. All right. All right, so we got the badge that may be accidentally hanging out of your pocket. You won't concede that you did that purposefully.
I mean, Mr. Waters, if you want me to say I did that on purpose, I don't have a problem with that. I'm saying I don't remember that. All right? So can I tell you that I did that on purpose? No, sir, I can't. Can I say that this happened by accident? No, sir, I can't. What I can say is I don't remember it, and that's not how I would normally, that's just not how I would normally, that's just not, that's not something I did. That's not a normal thing. So I don't know.
Okay. All right. That's fine. You won't concede to this jury that there was any intention or purpose to you doing that at the hospital on the night of the boat wreck.
I'm saying I don't remember using that badge. And I specifically remember, I'm sorry, go ahead. You can ask
You specifically remember what?
that like when I went into the room with the kids, did I pull my badge out? And I know that I did not do that.
No, because it was on your pocket like that, correct?
It's on my pocket like that right then. But again, I can't tell you that with certainty.
While you were wearing that badge like that, did you tell any of the kids who were in the boat wreck not to cooperate with law enforcement?
I never told anybody not to cooperate with law enforcement, whether I had a badge hanging out my pants, didn't have a badge, or any point in time did I tell anybody don't cooperate with law enforcement.
Did you become aware in March or April or May of 2021, shortly before June, that an investigation into the investigation of that night had begun, as well as your conduct?
Yes, I did learn of that. I don't know the status of that investigation, being that I've been charged with so many things and haven't been charged with that. I'm assuming that there may not be charges.
Whether or not you were aware that that had begun in the spring of 2021.
Yes, sir. I was aware. Well, at some point in time, I became aware of it. Was that the spring? Was it, February, March, April? I know it was after. I know it was after that night, and it was before June 7th.
before June?
And like I said, we learned about when, I've testified about when I understood there was an investigation into whether or not I was acting in a public manner or whatever it was y'all were investigating, public corruption or that. So if it was a couple of months, if it was a month or two when Andy Strickland got charged, then if you showed me that, I'd be surprised, because I think he was charged before that.
All right. But this was a friend of yours, correct? The guy who you asked if you could put lights in your car in a private vehicle, correct?
Well, I mean, Andy, yeah, I considered Andy a friend. I considered TC a friend, and I considered Tom Carter a friend,
Sure.
all of whom I asked if I could put lights in the vehicle.
All right. And
So, yes, sir. I mean, I considered Andy a friend.
would you at least agree with me that in at least the fall of 2020, your friend Andy Strickland was indicted and lost his job for a financial and corruption investigation?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Response.
Your Honor, I think there's a link between his knowledge of that and what he's admitted, that there was an investigation going on in the months prior to the murders.
Oh, you mean not only did he have a solicitor's badge and the power and the authority of a solicitor person in this great state of South Carolina, but he also had blue lights on his car. He had blue lights. He took his solicitor badge down to the hospital the night his son was in a boat accident. Young lady died, bless her soul, Miss Beach. And he just has it hanging out. He doesn't remember doing it. He didn't do it on purpose. He doesn't know why it was there in his pocket, you know. Seems like such an uncommon thing to have. But at least we got another name. Who's that name? We got Andy Strickland. Andy Strickland got indicted. That sounds good. It sounds like they're starting to hold these people who were letting Murdaugh get away with these atrocious things accountable. Because Andy Strickland, T.C. Smalls, Tom Carter, all three are sheriffs in South Carolina, or at least one of them was a sheriff. And they all said he could put blue lights on his car. They didn't have a problem with it. He has a solicitor's badge. He's one of the home team, right? Everybody would understand that you get a solicitor's badge whenever you go with your dad to work to prosecute a couple of cases. Very, very simple. Very, very understandable. But what did Andy Strickland get indicted for that made him lose his office as sheriff? I'm pretty sure it was in connection with Murdaugh, right? And he gave him blue lights on his car. Hopefully, that's it. Hopefully the state is going after state actors who are abusing their authority in their name.
I'm 33 years old, and I'm a lifelong Colletonian. And just, it's one of those things where ever since I was a small boy that I honestly felt that I was going to be the sheriff of Collin County. It's kind of like the little choo-choo train that thought that he could. And we're just excited, again, the good group of people that we have that's going to make a difference here in Collin County.
That was 2012. Then fresh-faced Colleton County Sheriff Andy Strickland celebrating his election victory.
Now flash forward to November. Strickland arrested for domestic violence. Today we learned he's charged with more than a dozen new crimes, from embezzlement to corruption. And Emerson, live in Richland County, where Strickland appeared in court just hours ago.
And the question, I guess, did Strickland say anything in court?
He did not say anything, but he did speak through his attorney, Andy Savage, who is representing him on all of these charges. It is a stunning development for the suspended sheriff from Colleton County. These are 15 new indictment charges. 13 of them are coming from a state grand jury. 12 more are coming from an ORI. jury as well, Horry County jury. Now, that's because part of these charges stem from law enforcement conferences that Strickland attended in Myrtle Beach. According to the indictment, Strickland used public funds to book an extra hotel for his girlfriend and family at one of the events. At another, the state alleges he used funds to carry on an extramarital affair with someone under 21 who worked for him. The state says he gave her Ambien, a controlled substance, also illegal. Attorney Andy Savage says he and his clan only learned of the indictments late this morning, and they're still making their way through the multiple charges.
Really? Andy Strickland had 15 counts. 15 counts against him. We're not going to spend the time going over all of the counts because I'm really just interested in the common law counts of misconduct in office. Now, he didn't do the same thing for the misconduct in office. For example, count 1 of his misconduct in office was about him using subordinate deputies to come over to his house and properties and places of business and doing work for him. They're getting paid by the county taxpayer to work for him because they were on the clock while they did this. That seems pretty abusive of your power while in office. And it's not like any of those deputies can go and rat their boss out, right? They can't do that. They can't do. Count 4, misconduct in office, common law. He gave somebody a government radio where they could listen to first responders. He gave some private citizen. They're not mentioned in the indictment. I would hope that this kind of relates to Alec Murdaugh, but he let Alec Murdaugh put blue lights in his car. I don't know if the state paid for that or not. But I didn't hear anything about a radio. Maybe Alex Murdaugh had a radio for first responders too. After count 4, you have count 5. And count 5, Andy Strickland was using county vehicles, ATVs, tools for his work, his property, his home, his own use and enjoyment. He can't do that. They're not his. He doesn't have just free reign to use the state and the county resources that way. Count 7, he used department resources for his campaign. Again, ordering subordinate deputies to do things to progress his campaign within the county. I don't know if somebody was running against him. I don't know what that's about. All I know is it's a real common practice. I've seen that happen before. That's all I know. Common law count 10. Misconduct in office. What did he do this time? This time, he misappropriated public funds, funds that come from you, the people, the taxpayer, to go up to Myrtle Beach and pay for a hotel. I heard it was about a mistress or something. Allegedly it was. But that's not nearly as atrocious as count 12, where in count 12 it says alleging that he was using his power of employment and his power to set wages, provide for somebody to provide for themselves. He was using that to coerce some staff member to carry on a sexual relationship with them. 15 indicted charges. Some of them have to do with drugs. Some of them have to do with misappropriation of state funds, less than $10,000. There were a couple of those in there. It looks like they're holding him accountable, but I don't see anything dealing with Alec Murdaugh. I don't see anything dealing with those blue lights. The other two sheriffs, they still have their positions. I don't know why that is, but I sure do wish somebody would explain it to me. Let's see what happened when Andy Strickland's charges were disposed of. How were they disposed of? Did they hold a trial or was it a plea bargain? Let's check it out.
But first, suspended Cotton County Sheriff Andy Strickland pleaded guilty in Columbia today to 3 charges. They include beating up a woman and 2 public corruption charges. The judge sentenced Strickland to serve 1 day for the assault and battery charge and 5 years suspended and 5 years probation for the other charges. Strickland also has to do 200 hours of community service. He also must resign as sheriff of Colleton County and continue mental health and substance abuse counseling. Governor McMaster suspended Strickland from office back in November when he was first.
Well, days after a guilty plea from suspended Colleton County Sheriff R.A. Strickland, the Racial Justice Network is planning to speak about what they call an unfair justice system. They argue Strickland should be held to the same standards, saying he wasn't as any other citizen who committed the same crimes. Today's news conference starts at noon at the Colleton County Courthouse in Walterboro. Strickland cut a deal that includes his resignation as sheriff. On Friday, he pleaded guilty to 3 charges after reportedly beating his girlfriend, ordering deputies to work on his property using county resources, and using county resources to engage in what they termed an inappropriate relationship. Strickland's lawyer says the former sheriff has struggled with depression and alcohol abuse. He says Strickland has undergone extensive therapy and counseling over the last year. Part of Strickland's guilty plea includes continuing that treatment.
15-count indictment, he pleads it down to 3. First one, misconduct in office. We went over a lot of that. Of course he was going to take one. The second one is assault and battery in the 3rd degree. Allegedly against a female, against a woman. The third one, which I believe is by far the one that has the most interest for me, and that is breach of trust with fraudulent intent. And the reason why I believe that's so interesting is because it helps me teach you another thing about law. Because the misconduct in office was a common law thing. They also got him statutorily for embezzlement, misappropriation of state funds, things of that nature. I'm going to read off all of the charges. I can't remember them all. I apologize. Too many. Indictment for misconduct in office and unlawful drug use. That's one indictment. The next indictment is indictment for misconduct in office, use of official position or office for financial gain, embezzlement, use of public funds, property, or time to influence election, and unlawful drug use. It seems kind of like the misconduct in office went through a lot of those things that were also charged statutorily. 15-count indictment, knocked down to 3. But what's so interesting about the breach of trust with fraudulent intent, what they're talking about there is another common law action. And who did Andy Strickland breach the trust of? Did he breach the trust of you? Is that what they're saying? Of course they are not. They are saying that he breached the trust of his office. Because in government, the way it's supposed to work, here in America, here in the United States, where we don't trust judges, is that government officers and employees are supposed to be our trustees. Government, the idea of government is a trust. The preamble establishes that. The preamble to the Constitution. It establishes the government as the trust, and the whole idea of us voting is here's the guy we trust the most to go handle our business for us in this area of government. The sheriff is the one who's supposed to enforce the laws. Under the true idea of the American government, he's supposed to enforce the laws for us, not the executive. Not the executive. Government works a lot better when we have right to access powers like of the sheriff. Society also works better when we have the right to use the powers of, say, a solicitor. Because then when people do things that are wrong to us, we can hold them accountable without asking anybody's permission. The way the government works right now is that they look at you as the trustee, and they are the beneficiaries. That's the way I see it, because with how light Andy Strickland got off, the Racial Justice Network held a protest down there. Hey, we wouldn't get that kind of treatment. They wouldn't let us off that easy if we had a 15-count indictment. And at least Andy Strickland gets an indictment. A lot of people get arrested with no indictment to be found, no warrant to have been issued. Most people who get arrested, there's not an indictment or a warrant at the time of their arrest. Which government would you believe to be better? One where the government personnel are your trustees, or one where they can get indicted 15 times and walk away with 5 years of probation? When a lot of people are serving prison time for one felony right now. Some of them for 6, but they're not serving time right now. We're going to get into Russell Lafitte. This is the only other kind of co-conspirator, person arrested around Alec Murdaugh, around the time that all this fraud was being exposed, because they had to show you something. They had to show you some justice. We're still here in South Carolina where we still got a little bit left.
There was a conservatorship for them, but I don't think the fact that they were underage is why there was a conservatorship.
You don't think it was because, at least in part, they were underage when the settlement was received?
No, that's not what I remember. But for purposes of your thing, Mr. Waters, I agree there was a conservator appointed.
Which part of what I just asked you about the Flyers do you take issue with? You take issue that y'all didn't conspire to do that, you and Russell? You
Yes.
take issue with that? You take issue with that? Okay.
I can tell you that Russell Lafitte never conspired with me to do anything. Whatever was done by me.
Okay. So you told the Flower girls that you were borrowing money from their account? Yeah.
No, I don't know. I don't know that I told
Tell
them
Russell to tell them?
that. I don't recall. I don't believe so, but I can't sit here and tell you what I told him however many years ago.
Did you tell Russell he could borrow money from that account too?
I don't remember having any discussion with him about him borrowing money.
Was the supposed interest rate you were paying far lower than anything you could have gotten anywhere else?
I don't even know what interest rate
know?
I was paying.
Okay. You understand the question?
No, sir. Say that again.
Did you have any conversations with Russell Lafitte about structuring this $1.3 million into multiple payments and then applying it to the Plyler account?
I had to.
Okay.
I had to have.
All right. You even asked him to recut the check, correct? I'm not here to talk about that. I'm just talking about what went on.
And I know, but you keep talking about what I did with Russell Lafitte, and what I want to let you know is that I did this.
I know.
And I'm the one that took people's money that I shouldn't have taken, and that Russell Lafitte was not involved in helping me do that.
I just asked you a
Knowingly.
question.
If he did it without knowing it.
All right. So you said
I don't dispute what's in those emails as far as, or text, as far as what I told Russell, and as far as what I did to again, take money that didn't belong to me, that wasn't mine, and that I was wrong for taking.
So Alec Murdaugh asked Russell Lafitte to do a conservatorship for some ladies because they were under 21. He doesn't know the little amount of interest he got charged on loans that Russell gave to Alex and himself. Doesn't know what he was paying. All he knows, the only thing he knows for certain, is that they didn't conspire to do it. Russell Lafitte's attorneys brought this up in federal court, moving for a new trial based on what Alex said. The federal court said, You're just not credible. Alex is not credible. The conviction is. But they still haven't sent him to prison. That seems awfully strange. Alex got sentenced like the next day. But it was federal and not the good state of South Carolina.
And we have some breaking news to tell you about tonight. Russell Lafitte, former CEO at Palmetto State Bank in Hampton, was found guilty on all federal charges. Lafitte was fired by the bank for his apparent role in stealing money from the personal injury clients of disbarred former attorney Alec Murdaugh. He was on trial facing charges of conspiracy to commit bank fraud, wire fraud, and 3 counts of misapplication of bank funds. All charges are related to Lafitte's apparent criminal ties to Alec Murdaugh. Lafitte now has 2 weeks to file an appeal, and right now there's no date set for sentencing.
And Lafitte gave them a little bit of that during his testimony, didn't he, with the admission about the...
Yeah, I think Lafitte's cross testimony actually started out fairly well because the dude's good at playing dumb. I mean, he's real all shucks. He's real, kind of a country guy. And I could totally see a juror buying that. But he completely shot himself in the foot towards the end of cross when Limehouse asked him about not filing his taxes. And he said, oh, yeah, I willingly didn't pay taxes, only paid taxes when I knew that I was going to get caught when the House of Cards started collapsing in 2021. And I did so because I didn't want to pay taxes. Wow. I mean, that is demonstrative of a completely separate scheme without Alex Murdaugh to hide money. And by the way, that money was routed through the exact same bank accounts that the Murdaugh money was routed through, the Palmetto State Bank, general bank account. And that was done because he knew that the IRS wouldn't be able to see that money flowing through his bank accounts, so he knew he didn't have to report it. So that shows a level of thinking about, a criminal enterprise completely separate of Alex Murdaugh that I think, wasn't something that he's charged with today, could be something he's charged with tomorrow. If I'm a juror and I'm kind of on the fence and thinking, okay, maybe this guy just did get all shucks fooled. What? You knowingly committed tax fraud and then knew when to pay the government back when the jig was up? Okay, you're not an idiot. You're a con man.
Imagine that. Russell Lafitte was found guilty on all 6 counts. That happens sometimes when people go before a jury. Every now and then. And the young gentleman from Fitz News said he was pretty slick, he was pretty good, he was really convincing until he talked about committing tax fraud knowingly. And then, in his opinion, he wasn't a dumb idiot anymore. He was a con man. He was out there to get his. That's what America's all about. That is what America's all about. But I think Russell Lafitte could probably be pretty slick, right? He actually put out this video that I found on the internet. It was probably practice getting ready to testify on the stand in federal court. But he was blaming everything on Alec Murdaugh. I was just the unwitting banker. I was just trying to help out a friend.
Looking back, hindsight is so easy to see all the red flags that were there of his personality and all. Absolutely. I mean, Elliot was always one of those people. He'd walk in a room, he wanted to be the center of attention. He was loud, but he was very easy to talk to. He never met a stranger. I mean, you would meet him, he would make you feel like you were the most important person and the only person in the room when you were talking. I mean, he knew how to work a crowd. He knew how, but now you see it and you realize, hey, this is all an act. And you look back on it and you think, when he would come into my office and always be real loud and walking in and out, talking to people as they come in, but you see that now. That was all act. It was all planned. It was all to distract you, to, lower your, not inhibitions, I can't think of the word that you would use for that, but
lower your guard, maybe?
Lower your guard on everything that was going on. That was just, that was just Alec. And, and now that you look back on it, you can see those things. But at the time, and, there was no reason to have ever suspected him of anything. I mean, he was you know, he was a well-respected attorney in our community, in our state. I mean, he was past president or past chairman of the Trial Lawyers Association, and nobody would ever believe that of him until it was thrust in our face, and we see what he had done and see how he had manipulated and taken advantage of people that he was there to protect.
So he introduced you to the idea of being a conservator.
Yes. I remember he came in to me and asked me about, hey, can you do this? I said, I don't have any idea. You know, we looked into bank policy. Obviously, you always go to the policy manual. I walked back and spoke with my father, who was CEO and chairman of the board at the time, and he had done one for somebody. He had been a conservator for somebody. And he told me, he said, we'll do it for the law firm and for Alec.
What is the role, or what did you understand the role of a conservator to be?
We were supposed to take care of their money.
If you were going to do anything with their money, did you have to get approval, or could you just decide, oh, I'm gonna do something with it?
No, we could invest, but we did go to the judge. Typically, I know, like with the Plyler girls, who I was very involved with, they would, I could spend like $2,000 a month for normal living expenses, but if there's anything unusual, then I had to go to the judge to talk to her, like if they wanted a vehicle or something, a house that I had to buy them at one point, you know, then I'd have to absolutely go to the judge, get a petition for expenditure. But on the loans, you know, we did not have to do that. I'd spoken to her. She said, yeah, sure, that's fine. So we did it. And it was just an investment vehicle. You know, they were earning a lot more than what they were earning sitting in an account at 0.25, 0.5%, or 0.75%.
You see what I mean? Hey, I was just trying to help out Murdaugh. He got me into that conservatorship. I didn't even know what conservatorship was. It was like a gateway crime into the legal world of banking. Alec Murdaugh introduced me to it. I thought he was a good guy. He's president of the Trial Lawyers Association, or was. See, that prestige, that status, it can be deceptive. It can deceive people. We should wish to not be deceived. But with all of the problems with this, with all of the problems that people see, because people are talking about, well, why weren't more people indicted? Why weren't there more criminal charges brought? Why didn't we find out about more co-conspirators? Russell Lafitte say he went to his dad and, oh yeah, this is normal business. We'll do it for the law firm. Yep. This might appear to be normal business, and how do we know unless we kind of investigate these things and see how often it's going on? It's the only way to know. That is the only way to know. But I don't see these problems, the problems of political persecution, of trying to give people the appearance of justice. I don't see these problems being as bad as the courts taking away our rights to access a court and to accuse people of crimes. Let's just take Jeffrey Epstein and those women. They couldn't get a court. They couldn't get a court to put down their testimony, put facts upon the record of that court, so that Jeffrey Epstein could not have gotten the sweetheart plea deal to get out of it, because he would have had to go through a jury and have the jury say that those facts were wrong if the accusers put them on the record of the court. But when we look at it, we see the attorney who's explaining it to us say, hey, we know of 4 other possible co-conspirators. And apparently there's a longer list. Let's check it out.
So is this the same agreement that protected any co-conspirators, any sort of blanket?
Yes. So what happened in this ruling by federal Judge Mara, he said that he's not going to undo the plea deal. It still stands, and it protects the alleged co-conspirators. So their names haven't been disclosed, although we know the names of 4 of them or more. I guess the reporters found out who they were. But what Judge Mara said is that they weren't named parties to this action, so they don't have a chance to respond. We know that the U.S. government is still looking into them, and should they have an indictment against them or an investigation against them, their attorneys would have to argue that the plea deal provided them immunity and that they should not be subject to prosecution.
Because some of these alleged co-conspirators could also be involved in the case that's being built here in New York. So that was in Florida, but we don't know if that agreement also protects them from whatever was done in New York.
You got Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, 3 other co-conspirators. Out of all of those people in that ring, in that circle, criminal, we only have 1 in prison right now. Just 1. I don't know if we're going to see any more trials on it, but we didn't have an open and public trial with Jeffrey Epstein. Some people can say that judgment and execution kind of came to him quickly. But we still didn't get to see a court of law and have an open and public trial about it. That means, by my count, we have success at justice 20% of the time. And that's when all of society makes a really, really big deal about it, makes a big issue. It takes a lot of energy, effort to get that effect. That's pretty sad, because that means we have a failure rate of bringing justice to people 80% of the time. And I just heard Trump got indicted 34 counts. 34 counts. I thought it was just over the hush money payment. John Edwards only got indicted with 6 counts, and his payments were over a longer period of time. It was more like payments. It was more like a car payment. It was outgoing money every single month. Only 6 indictments. I'm really, really interested to see what the 34 are. It might just be a shotgun blast. Let's just throw everything at them and see what sticks. I think we should have an open, fast, and speedy trial where everybody can see it. Full transparency. I believe it would be best for everyone, because it would really put to bed what is or is not actually going on. It's hard to make that determination when we can't see the evidence. And a lot of these problems that we have here in our society, I blame us. I blame us for not doing enough. That's what the next video is going to be about, is our values. What do we value in this society? Ann Emerson went to Andy Strickland's first court date when they were reading the indictments, or his arraignment, whichever you wish to call it. I don't know if they actually read the indictments. She tweeted from there, live tweets, little video clips. Only 4 likes. Only 4 likes on 2 of them. There's only 1 like on 1 of them. I'm ashamed that I live in this society, and I didn't know that, but I wasn't really watching the Murdaugh drama. I wished to wait until after the trial. Now I'm going back over and looking at all of the other things surrounding it, and I think that the thing that people are really, really kind of discontent with, I think one of the reasons people are like, there seems like there's got to be more people to this conspiracy than Russell Lafitte and Andy Strickland. And Andy Strickland didn't even get charged, or seems not to have gotten charged, for anything to do with Alex. Nothing to do with Alec Murdaugh. Nothing about letting him put blue lights on his car. I don't know if that was the case where the boat crash happened, but if it was, then that must have been the sheriff who allowed Alec to go to the hospital and talk to his officers with the solicitor's authority. No political corruption there. We're not going to bring him up on those charges because the Beach family, they already have a lawsuit over that situation. We're not going to put anywhere on any courts some type of fact that says that the government caused harm and injury by having untrustworthy persons in office. The office of solicitor, Solicitor Duffy Stone, and the other two sheriffs that said he could get blue lights on his car, Alec could get blue lights on his car and use a solicitor's badge. They have their job. I have not even seen as much as a reprimand. And Mallory Beach's family, they have a real claim about abuse of power, about abuse of governmental authority. If you don't wish to give these people power and authority to allow a criminal like Alec Murdaugh to have a solicitor's badge, that the state didn't even take that power and authority away from him until after, significantly after, months after they found his wife and son dead at his house. They didn't take that solicitor's badge from him until September 2021. Now he's been convicted of murdering his wife and son in June of 2021. You're telling me when that murder went down, somebody didn't think, hey, maybe we should go get the solicitor's badge from him and take off the lights on the car. Maybe, just possibly, that could be a good idea. These people get investigated for public corruption because of what happened with the boat case, where an actual citizen has a very, very legitimate complaint of the abuse of that power, and no charges get brought for that incident. Really? But everything with the state, everything with their money, with their finances, using their resources to carry on your campaign, all of those things get charged. But not a charge like abuse of your conduct in office when your officers allowed Alec Murdaugh to go around to all of those children in the hospital with a solicitor's badge in his pocket. No charge for anything like that. Because that deals with us, that deals with the public, that deals with me and you, but we're slaves. We don't have rights. And the state does not care about our protection. That is the only conclusion that I can gather from all of the facts that I see. And I'm not accusing anybody of a crime. I'm just saying it looks all awfully suspicious. And again, at least we're in South Carolina, where it gets to see a court of law. We are just Conspiracy, and we just wish for you to come back next time when we're talking about January 6th and what's going on with the Proud Boys. One world, love, and peace. And the only way we're going to change any of this is by holding people accountable for their actions and going after people who commit crimes. But one of the things that I've been seeing in political scandals and political persecutions is that it's typically centered around sexual misconduct. The sheriff taking a girlfriend to Myrtle Beach, Bill Clinton, Monica Lewinsky, John Edwards, Donald Trump. It seems to be heavily motivated by sexual misdeeds. And I think that's really, really strange. Why is it not motivated by misdeeds to the public? By misdeeds to people in the public, you or I? How come that never qualifies as a crime? It's just a simple question. How come even when we don't have charges against public officials, how come girls, women, cannot go to the police station and put down their verified testimony on a court of law before a rapist is arrested? Why can't we just do that? Why can't we just do that? How come we have prosecutions going on in this country where people are being denied their right to an attorney, denied their right to full disclosure, denied their right to a fast and speedy trial, denied their right to exculpatory evidence, and the list goes on. The list goes on because we don't have law in our courts anymore. And that's because we, the general public, don't know about law and how to enforce it. But the first thing you got to do is learn the principles. Next week, we will be back here talking about our value, how we value ourselves, how we value each other, and looking over what's going on in the January 6th. I hope you really, really understand the government is supposed to be your trustees. You are supposed to be the beneficiary of good government. We are Just Conspiracy, and we just wish to bring heaven down to earth through rights, law, and justice. One world, love, and peace.
Because I found that law enforcement oftentimes is friendlier when you're in law enforcement.
Did you have to take an oath when you got that badge?
No, sir.
You didn't?
Not that I remember. I don't.
It is reposing special trust and confidence in your ability, care, prudence, and integrity. Is that what it says on the back of this?
I mean, if you're, no, sir. I mean, I trust, if you're reading that off the back of that, I assume that it does. In the particular vehicle?
No, in any vehicle.
Yes, sir, I did.
Was that a government vehicle?
No, sir, it was not.
When did you have lights, like blue lights and stuff?
Yes, sir, I had some blue lights.
When did you have blue lights? And let me remember, you did 5 cases over 20 years, and you had blue lights in your vehicle, but it was your private vehicle, correct?
Well, it was the vehicle that I drove. It was law firm owned vehicle.
The law firm's own vehicle. So how'd you get blue lights in there?
I had them installed.
And who installed them?
When I went into the room with the kids, did I pull my badge out? And I know that I did not do that.
No, because it was on your pocket like that, correct?
It's on my pocket like that right then. Being that I've been charged with so many things and haven't been charged with that, there may not be charges.